So, ladies and gentlemen, if you come through with me, I'll take you to the first bit.
Wow! Pumunta tayo dito sa loob ng simbahan na mayroong tatlong pointed thing. Hindi ko alam kung ang tawag doon, na aspire daw. Pero andito yung father, si pare. Siya magbibigay ng instruction sa amin. So makinig tayo.
So what you're seeing here is a medieval cathedral, Gothic in style, and it was built after St. Chad, who was one of the earliest English saints. St. Chad came from the north of England and he brought faith to this area, which in those days was called Mercia, and he's called the Apostle to the Mercians. And because he's such an old saint, the Anglican Church, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Orthodox Church all venerate him as a saint. So this here, if you look in here, if you come through, you'll be able to see better. It's called the Pedilavium, which is Latin for the washing of the feet. So this was a pilgrimage in England in medieval times. It was the third centre of pilgrimage. So in English terms, you had Canterbury. You know Canterbury?
Yeah.
You had Walsingham. You know Walsingham?
Yeah.
And then you had Lichfield.
Oh.
And so whether this was actually ever used for this, the pilgrims would have sat there and they would have had their feet washed.
Ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo na tatlong aspire.
Still wash your feet.
Oh, yeah.
Not today.
This pandemic.
So behind you here is what's called the choir, which is obviously traditionally where the choir sit for certain services, and the high altar is here. Now we don't quite know where the relics of Chad were originally put, but we think they were somewhere behind the high altar, so we'll come through to the next one. You'll see here a statue of St. Chad, and you'll see the big one outside.
So ayan ang pare, nag-o-orient sa atin.
So we think around here is probably where St. Chad was buried, yeah? Or not buried, he would have had a huge shrine. It would have been a very big shrine here. Have you been to St. Albans?
No. Yes.
Yeah, you can see the shrine there, it would have been like that, basically.
Yes.
So this chapel is the Lady Chapel, so the Chapel of Our Lady. She is currently being repaired, she's over here. This chapel originally, so do you know about the Civil War?
Yeah.
So in the Civil War, Lichfield was the most badly damaged of all the cathedrals. The spire was shot down, the roofs were stripped of lead. So this would have originally had, after that, plain glass. But these windows, which is called the Herkenrode glass, they were, when in France, when there was the revolution and convents were closed down, these were going to be thrown away. And they were rescued by a local rich man, basically, and they were, I think, sold very cheaply to the cathedral, and they were fitted in here. Don't ever try and work out the stories in them, because they don't fit, they're made to fit rather than go in order. The reredos behind the altar is German. It's from Oberammergau, you know yeah. And they have a lot of workshops there, so that's an Oberammergau reredos, and that tells the story of Jesus' early life and birth. So it's still used today. You have to still use for most of our weekday services. But here, you have to come back. We definitely have to come back, because here, the Vatican has just said this year that they are permitting us to have a relic of St. Chad back from Birmingham to here.
Okay.
So they will be building a new shrine here with a new reliquary in it, and there'll be a big service hopefully next year. And there'll be an altar here, and there'll be a.
You have to come back, Maria.
You have to go.
Permanent.
They were supposed
to be out here. That will be a permanent.
So it's a really good question, that, because it's what you'd call semi-permanent, because it's a relic from the Vatican, because they own it, and relationships between Church of England and the Vatican have always been great. They'll say it's basically permanent, but they can always take it back if they want to. So this is when this was originally built, we think it's possible that this was built as a separate chapel for the bishop, with the relics of Chad in it, and then that was the cathedral. But they eventually, But if you come again, you go doing a tour upstairs. It's a complete mess because it's all been jumbled around. There's a rather sweet tomb here. This is called the Sleeping Children.
Oh.
And it's 2 children that died in a house fire, and one of the clergy, and one, I think the children died and the mother died. I think he was one of the canons like me here in the cathedral, and this is one of those things. And if you look closely here, you can just about see in the corner that's medieval wall painting. So this would have been an altar here originally, and that would have been the credence table where you would keep the bread and wine. Oh yeah, chalice. Exactly. So that's an original medieval wall painting. That's one of 3. You can't. One's locked away, but I'll show you the next one. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I'm sorry. So if you look here, you'll see this is the other wall painting, and we know what it looks like now, vaguely, because the archaeologists have reconstructed it. And can you just see the feet of Jesus in the crucifix position?
Oh, yeah.
Can you see that there's a lap behind it? So this is the Holy Trinity with Jesus sitting in the Father's lap. And this was rediscovered actually. They did some work, and they took away the tomb that's down here was originally here. They took it away, did some work, and they found this. And you can see the original structure for the altar posts coming out. And above it, you can see what's called the Hackett window. That was what happened to the cathedral in the Civil War. And Charles II gave lots of money for it to be repaired. And if you go outside, you'll see there's a statue, fairly bad statue of King Charles with his nose missing. But he was originally in the middle of the West Front. But they decided that although he was very generous, Jesus should be at the top, not King Charles. So he got heaved off. So this was all done by Bishop Hackett, and a lot of it was paid for out of his own money. And it took a long time to repair it. Because what happened was the spire, you'll see when you go outside, it's colour, fell into the roof of the other ones. Because what happened in the Civil War, Stoke over there, a huge lake over there. The parliamentarians were firing their cannons from there, and the royalists were firing their cannons from the hills up. Between, absolutely between. And it was, in medieval times, it had a wall and a moat. So it was a fortified cathedral. So of course it was a really strong target. It was also well defended. So it had 3 sieges, and it's pretty awful. And where you were standing as you came into the close, there were 6,000 parliamentarian soldiers buried there. So it was pretty grim times, really. And it's in terms of the fortifications, you can still see the pools part of it, and there is actually it still feels very enclosed, and there's a sort of moat all the way around it. And it's because we're quite near to the Trent and the Trent River. If you control that, you then control north and south. So it became a kind of place for. Let's move to the next place. Not far. So if you all come to me, this is you can't go up there because of the dreaded coronavirus. It's too small. But can you see? There's a little gate there. There's a staircase that goes up here. So a balcony up here, and through in there is a chapel. You have to come back and do a proper tour, definitely, because it's worth it. This is St Chad's Head Chapel. So, in medieval period, you'd have had the main shrine up there, and obviously you came to get your pilgrim badge, which you have to pay for. And here's a fact: you could only if you touch if you touch something to a shrine, it becomes a third. It becomes holy itself. Yeah. Only if you bought the cathedral's own badge, because that we were allowed to. No, haven't got it exactly. So that's the way it works. So there was big. So you had the main shrine there. You come in, you get your pilgrim badge if you do the pilgrimage, or you could just buy a little token and put it on there, and it becomes a third-class shrine, third-class relic. So what they did is they also then had his skull separate from the rest of his relics. and it was held here, and you paid a bit more, you could come around here, and a priest would hold the skull out here, because St. Chad was known for three things. He was known for being a mediator, he was known for being humble, and he was known for healing. So it's brilliant you're here. So we're about to start thinking about healing and going forward, and how we best do that in terms of our healing ministry. But this was, particularly the skull was thought to have really significant healing properties. So you could walk underneath here, and that would, we believe, would give healing. Now his skull is gone, because his relics, at the Reformation, somebody carefully took what they could away. The skull has never been found. We don't know what happened to it. The relics were found, apparently, I think in the 19th century, under somebody's bed, good Catholic, under their bed, securely found. And they're actually in St. Chad's Cathedral in Burton. And it's some of that will come here. So it's a really lovely sign of the way things are changing towards better relationships. And we intend to make this a real focus of pilgrimage. So people will come and do their pilgrimage here. And there are loads of routes now connected up to Lichfield. And one of our members has just done, because St. Chad came from Lindisfarne, Holy Island? Yes. So he came from Holy Island. So some of our members have done a pilgrimage from Holy Island right down to Lichfield. And what was really interesting about Chad was, you know the difference between the Celtic and the Roman traditions? Yeah. So there was a Celtic tradition before Gregory sent Augustine to England. Well, Chad was a bishop in the Celtic tradition, and he came down, and here got much closer to the Roman tradition, and he agreed to be ordained by the Romans as well. So that he was a mediator. He was a real, and he kind of brought the two churches together because they didn't get on particularly well. And I love that because my name is Gregory. So,
Gregory. Father
so
Gregory.
Very close
Father
to your.
Gregory.
In fact, St. Gregory's great day on Friday, so we celebrate that.
St. Gregory, we had a map of St. Gregory.
You did, yeah, Master Gregory's great, yeah. San Gregorio Maximo. So, I wanted to just say thank you to you too. This was the first cathedral to be used as a vaccination centre. So both of the practices in Lichfield, almost all of their people, certainly the older generation came through here, it was absolute chaos. From January the 15th till
Present.
so I think the beginning of June was being used as a vaccination centre. So, and an interesting fact that you might take with you is there's a woman here called Lady Mary Wortley Montague. Now, you've probably never heard of her. Have you ever heard of Edward Jenner?
No.
So Edward Jenner was the man who was made famous for vaccinations.
Oh, God.
But she's a very rich woman. She was the wife of a diplomat. Sorry, let Neil through. Be out your way in a minute, Neil.
Yeah, that's fine, no problem at all.
Lady Wortley Montague was married to a diplomat in Turkey, and she tested inoculations on her own children for smallpox. And it was her that brought that over to England, having tried it on her own children. She's a very brave woman, a woman of science, and her memorial, which you can't see at the moment, is at the very back of the cathedral. So it's so you've seen the Pegalabian, you've seen the choir, you've seen the Chad, you've seen some of the medieval wall paintings, which are some of our best things, and I think that's probably it really. This is the vestry, but it's actually called the consistory court because canon law.
Yeah.
So that's actually would have been a court, and it's still got this bit of a court in there. So it's actually called the consistory court, and it's very strange. It could never be a chapel because you can't go down to the chapel. You always go up to chapel or straight into chapel. I learned that because I went to the Jesuit church in Wimbledon, and the bishop refused to consecrate it because you can't go down to the chapel. So yeah, so these are the most. On the way out, there Bishop Hackett, who rebuilt it. That's his tomb there, and you'll be able to see the flags of the Staffordshire regiment as you come out on the left, which is the south transit.
Thank you.
So can we thank the Reverend because they don't normally allow people in the cathedral at this time. So let's all say
Thank you. Thank you, Father.
All I want to say is you've got to come back and do a proper pilgrimage. That's the cost. That's the cost of the tour. Okay?
No, Father. No, Father, from us.
Thank you very much. Ayuda. To the cathedral.
Yes, Father. Yeah. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Father.
So we're going to go back to the coach now as quickly as possible.
Magmamas now. Magmamas na kami ngayon.
Magmamas na tayo.
So, thank you for liking and
Magaling
subscribe
siya.
my my YouTube channel, yeah? Okay, don't forget to subscribe mga kapatid. Itutur ko kayo sa iba't ibang lugar. Yeah, and we're going to have a mass now. Yeah, we're going to have a mass now.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Diba? Lalabas na daw kami. Yun ang ganda oh. Oh. Ang daming tigo. Ayan. So, ito na yung simbahan na mayroon 3 pillar. 3 yung pillars niya.
3 pillars.
Oo.
Pagkita naman sa labas,
So, papunta na daw kami doon sa magsisimba na kami ngayon kasi Sunday naman ngayon dito. Today is the 4th of Sunday ng September. Nasa tour kami ngayon
Pero kung nag-ano ng
kay Mario.
si ano
Maganda dito.
nagbigay ng 20. Ay, sabi nila mag-ano nito. Ay, pag ako naghingi, di marinig. Donation.
Kaya yan. Ito si Lakay.
Sa Lakayo. Taga saan ka, Lakay? Sa Pangasinan?
San Carlos.
San Carlos, sa Tagupan, ano?
After ng Daguban.
Tagupan, doon sa Isabela?
Sa San Carlos, after ng Dagupan City.
Oo nga, oo.
Pangasinan.
Panggalatot, ano? So, dalawa, alam mo yung Ilocano at saka ano?
Panggalatok.
Panggalatot at saka Ilocano, gano'n?
Gayon.
Okay.
Lakay. Si Lakay ko. Ayan ang simbahan. May 3 pilar siya. After sa Pamilya Sagrada sa Espanya. So, ganyan. Ang ganda siya, oh. Di ba? Kita nyo, mga shapatiyad. Yan.
Pero pagdating natin sa simbahan,
Yan. Mga kasama ko nagtutour. Yan. Maingat kayo dito. Yan. Say hello. Ganda-ganda, oh. Itong bahay dito, may marami siyang doll. Dito sa bahay na, sa bintana, oh. May mga doll siya, oh.
ay, naku, Diyos ko, parang kinabutan ka.
Oh.
Nasa ka ba? Sa chapel?
Grabe.
Sa baba daw. Sa baba ano?
Ay, hindi sa baba.
Sa tagiliran.
Sa Lynchfield kami, so Lynchfield.
Sabi mo ka Mario, ano?
Staffordshire pala to, Mario. Staffordshire.
Yung may toilet.
Sa Lynchfield.
Dati.
Kasi hirap pa ano?
Pupunta na kami ng simbahan. Magmamas na daw kami. So, don't forget to like and subscribe, mga kapatid. Yeah. See you later. Goodbye. Sakay na kami sa bus. Ayan.
Nag-vlog ang lola mo.
Ayan. Sinday Mario.
Diba? Hello.
Diba? Sakay na kami ng bus. So, at ito na driver namin. Si Marik. Ayan, papasok na ako sa bus. Nasa dulo akyat. Ayan. Ayan. Dito ako sa dulo ng walang hanggang. Diteyake. So, don't forget to like and subscribe sa mga kapatid. Click lang ang button sa baba. Bye. Thank you.